graphics drivers, move them to Linux, interface them with NVIDIA graphics cards, and voila, the birth of an incredible strategic partnership happened because we could apply that expertise. I can tell you today, I still have members of that original graphics design team on my staff today who know how to write drivers. In fact, they still know how silicon works. We understand to a level that's far greater than we think anyone else in the industry in terms of what workstation class customers need. The other thing that's important to note is Jim talked about the market share. And he said, back in 2002, we were a strong second, but a distant second from our competition. And today it's a dead heat between ourselves and Dell. Notice I mentioned it's HP and Dell. What happened to Sun? We acquired Apollo. Digital got acquired by Compaq. We acquired Compaq. What happened to SGI? They're all gone. For whatever reason, IBM just got out of the business as well. They all chose not to make that transition. Maybe they said what Wall Street was trying to tell HP back in 2002, you should sell the PC business because it's not worth being in. Maybe that's why they're not in that business. We saw real value in the business. We saw a way in which we could bring value to our class of customers. And if you look at the data from IDC in terms of market share in 2002 and you look at it in calendar Q2 2010, you see an organization, HP, that basically has demonstrated through our results that you can add value beyond the box. So, why is that an interesting story? It kind of gives you a premise for Fort Collins and what we are about here. I had mentioned earlier, I said, if we look at the R&D team, what you're going to experience today is an inside view in terms of how we approach adding value to what could be classified as a very commoditized business. And we're going to give you that inside view. But I'm going to talk about, and you're going to see, I believe, throughout the day, 5 very simple principles. And you can say, okay, Terry's going to give away the company secrets. But when you hear them, you're going to say, my God, that's just such common sense. There's 5 basic principles. It starts with, and Jim talked about it, the customer. There is an insatiable appetite, is probably the right word, that Jeff's team and my team have, and Jim's staff, is that we can't get enough of being in front of our customers. I was in Minneapolis last week with 3 of my engineers visiting with a customer. We spent 2 days there talking about how we could apply this little box here to a medical imaging application. Whole new application in terms of this kind of a class of solution, high-end performance in a small package that could be used to roll on in the cart. 3 of my engineers, one was a system architect, another one was a graphics expert, the other one was an operating systems expert in Linux. Again, applying that rich history that we had from the past and then being able to apply it today. So there's this insatiable appetite for the customer. So principle number 1, the customer. Principle number 2, it is an HP root. It's founded in Bill and Dave, innovation. It's an overused word today, but we live and breathe it every day. And in fact, I'm going to pull a few pieces out of the Z800 here and talk about the innovative dimensions that went into that in just a minute. But my staff always is looking for how can they reinvent. Intel gives you a reference design. You can basically take a motherboard, and certainly the Asian manufacturers will take an Intel reference design and simply replicate it. And you could, quote unquote, build a workstation. The fact that Dell and HP own 88 or 86% of this total market means that there aren't a whole lot of customers who trust just simply getting what I'll call an off-the-shelf white box. They want all the other pieces that go into it. When you look in this design, just in the motherboard design alone, you see something far more complex versus the Intel reference board that they give you. So that innovation even is at the board level. You're going to hear things today in terms of how we test the board, how we validate the design margins from an electrical characteristic perspective, and that our margins are not what I'll call industry standard, but they're our standard. And where did that standard come from? It came from that 30 years of history for which when we built workstations and chipsets from the ground up, we have a keen understanding of how to look at signals and signal integrity and then design a product that has a high level of reliability. So principle number 2, innovation. Principle number 3, question over here from John. Time to market with key technologies. We will always drive time to market with key technologies. In fact, there's some places for which we're the only ones in the market. Liquid cooling. As of today, we're the only ones in the workstation category that are offering liquid cooling as a solution to our customers. Now, there might be some white boxes out there that are offering it, which are kind of pseudo gamers. They're not workstations. They don't have workstation chipsets. They don't have ECC memory. They claim to be workstations. They're not. They don't have the ISV certifications. Liquid cooling. So here's our little liquid cooling module here. Totally closed, so it doesn't require any maintenance. Intended to last the life of the workstation. And for us, a workstation's life, although it's a 3-year warranty, we expect it to last 5 years. And we think this liquid cooling will not leak even well beyond 5 years.
Terry, is that radiant discharge or is there a fan behind it?
There's a fan behind us. Actually, I can show you exactly how it goes in. It's the existing fans that are there. We simply put this right in front of the fans that are part of the current design. Anyways, not only do we innovate and bring something like this, so an existing technology, but then bring it in the workstation class, and not only goes into our flagship machine, but you get it in a single socket solution as well. Okay. And why is liquid cooling important? Well, if you're running high stressed applications and you're using the high-end Intel processors that are 130 watt, guess what? You're going to produce a lot of heat, which means the fans have to run faster, and acoustically it becomes unpleasant in the office. With liquid cooling, we can drop the dB between 4 and 6 dB when that application is running full bore. Now, if the machine's idling, guess what? These are the quietest things on the planet. Okay, so you don't need liquid cooling when they're idling, but it's when you're running that really heavy application, when you're doing scene animation and things like that. Guess what? This thing will really reduce, some of the acoustics that we see.
So do you use it to drive up clocks at all, or is it primarily to keep the thermals down, to improve reliability?
It's thermals and reliability and acoustics. Okay, when you say drive the clock up, you can do that. Okay?
I'm not saying you should, I'm just...
Intel has a class of processors for which you can drive the clock up. And as soon as you do that, you're now working in a space that's not certified.
Right, right.
And so we do not sell systems that aren't certified to run what I call reliably on a regular basis. Jim said, our products go in mission critical. I can't have something that overclocked and then all of a sudden either blue screens or gets a data corruption or something like that.
Gaming machine.
It's not a gaming machine. This is a reliable machine.
Is it water or glycerin?
It's water with just a hint of glycerin to prevent freezing. So it's a very environmentally friendly fluid overall. So this is the liquid cooling module, and I can show you how that goes in there. So principle number 3 is time to market with key technology, and this is an example. This is also an example of innovation. And what you'll see today is that it's never one principle applied versus another. It's usually a combination, and in some cases it's all 5. Okay. 4th one, Jim mentioned this as well. Value to the customer. Don't have handles on here, that's right. In part because we're really trying to drive value in terms of a price. So we will choose to make trade-offs in terms of where the innovation is, and we'll drive to make sure that we've got very competitive price points in the market. Are we looking for the absolute lowest cost? No, because we're actually adding value. And our customers are voting with their pocketbook and saying, I'm going to pay for that value. That's indicated by our growth. The fact that we continuously grow 1.5 to 2 times the market is an indication that the customer says what you're adding as value is something that we're willing to pay for. So principle number 4 is driving a value for the customer so that we are very competitive on cost. Principle number 5 is another what I'll call fundamental root of Bill and Dave in terms of the company. Reliability, quality, and stability. We build what we hope are the most reliable platforms that can be built. An example is, one of the folks yesterday asked me, he said, well, Terry, this is real close to, your elite desktops. What's really different about this? Well, number 1, Jim said ECC memory. Number 2, workstation chipset. Number 3, it has discrete professional graphics. And number 4, ISVs that are qualified on it. I'll go one step further. On the motherboard itself, you bet we leverage. We look at their design in the elite, we look at our design where we can leverage, we do. Our capacitors are twice the duty rating that you would get on a typical desktop because we run the system at greater power levels. And that way we actually add reliability into it. So their system doesn't need the higher duty capacitors because they're not going to run the big graphics in there or the large memory configurations or the high-end processors.